Muhami Matters with Chris Adams, powered by CJA Consulting.
Welcome to Muhami Matters, where credibility meets clarity in legal and professional services. I'm your host, Chris Adams, founder of Muhami and CJA Consulting. Today, we're joined by Alex Hutchinson, a trusted independent, or fractional, as they say in the US, CTO to some of the UK's most forward-thinking law firms. Alex has his own company, Hutchinson & Co., and they help firms get serious about tech transformation, really trying to cut out the vendor noise, getting right down to business. So they deal with everything from case management chaos to co-pilot integration. So Alex really, through his firm, helping reshape how legal business gets done. Welcome to Muhami Matters, Alex. Thanks for joining us.
Morning, Chris. Thanks for that. It was a very good intro. If I say so myself. Thanks for the kind words. But yeah, I always like to try and come on podcasts where I can, where people can ask us questions and try and obtain answers that might be relevant or valuable to their audience. So thanks for inviting me.
Anytime. I'm very grateful for you to join us. Tell us a bit about you and your experience.
So background, I've worked for myself for kind of 15 years or so now. I originally set up, I've been very passionate about being independent all the way through what I do and removing conflicts of interest. That's always been part of what I've tried to do when I'm advising any client. So originally I was dealing with digital workflow, paper light, managed print, those type of areas when I first set up a consultancy 15 years ago. And the focus on that was around being independent. It was about, why would you go to a salesperson that is paid to sell you as much of a device as possible? So we're talking about the days of Xerox, things like that, who are still around, obviously. But back then it was very sales heavy industry, less advisory. And why would you go for advice to someone that's paid to sell you as much of this product as possible for the highest price? There's too many conflicts of interest. So I built a consultancy based on that. And what happened was, long story short, is we were seeing within the industry, law firms were very heavy print users. So we started talking more to the managing partners of law firms. We built up 5 or 6 clients in that sector, trying to help them. And the reality is that in those conversations, it became apparent quite quickly that those firms didn't want to print. They wanted to stop printing. They wanted to print less. So it went on the digital workflow and paper light journey. So we were asking them, why is that? Why are you still printing then? Well, we've been to market, we've looked at technology that's available, we've bought it, we've deployed it, but nothing's happened. So that took us on the journey to where we are now, really. We started looking at, what is the process that firms followed? We saw a pattern. What should they have done differently? And then we went back to these clients. So I decided to go to that market, to the managing partners of law firms, and say, let's pick a project. We've got a methodology to avoid that happening and show you how to do it the right way. I want to test it. So all I want at the end of it is a testimonial. You can pay my nominal rate, which is very low, very, very low day rate, just to cover costs. And then we'll agree any markup, margin, bonus, whatever you want to call it at the end, if it's a success. So we did that over 12 months for 5 projects, all different. And they were all deployed. All the projects were a success, all implemented. All clients paid me a bonus of their choice that were not small. They'd look at what should you have been paid as a decent day rate, and what's the gap, and then they'd agree to pay me a percentage of that gap. So that's where it started. And once you do the right things for a firm, the methodology was proven, and then they were like, can you help me with this? Can you help me change case management system? What we're doing about document management? It just evolved into this consultancy. That's really where I wanted to be. I think that what's fortuitous is I started with where the most print was and trying to remove it. But the reality is law firms tend to buy that advice. They want the people that they can trust, that are looking on for their best interests and trying to provide them the right path and way forward and help them deliver it. And that's just grown now from there.
So you started, as you said, with print, and you've evolved over the last 15 years. Does the model still look the same?
The methodology looks the same, because there's certain things that firms do wrong. It's not just firms, it's any business do wrong when they're trying to make technology changes. We're running technology projects, so we are often called, we're this fractional CTO. What happened is initially we were looking at operational efficiency was our thing, but it wasn't resonating. with firms. So they were all technology projects. So we basically went in as a fractional IT director at the time. So it's for the firms that didn't want or need a full-time CTO or IT director, but they were big enough to have a business where technology was in their way. It was blocking their people. It was disrupting them. There was downtime or there was risk, or it was just ineffective, and they wanted to fix it. And they were big enough to bring someone in to actually do that. So I ended up doing that on my own. I went out there. I became this freelance IT consultant, and I got work quite quickly, and I became very busy. And then I was just finding all the work, doing all the work, and my batteries were just going, it's just, it drains you out. And it became this business that I wanted to create this, but now how was I going to sustain it? So
Yeah.
that's when it forced me to have to say, right, it can't be about me. We need to build a practice using that methodology. And that's when over the last 18 months, probably 2 years now, we've rebranded just to make it more of a practice, which it is. We've looked at team structures, which we've been through. So I'll do all the advisory and direction and guidance. And then when we get to a project that we're going to deliver, there's a team under me. So we're structured. Again, I don't know whether it's ironic or intentional, but we're structured very much like a law firm. We can really
Yeah.
work with law firms because the partners are doing the partner work at the partner rate, which is me. And then when we've got the other work, I still remain accountable and I'm there for oversight, but we've got the right roles at the right rates doing the work. So it's great. And although, as anybody watching this that runs a business will know, trying to find the right people that are good people, knowing what that role should be and how to engage them and lead them is a challenge, but I feel like we've got that nailed down to a very simple model now, which works well for us. We're not a high volume business at the minute. I don't think we'll ever be that way. We're a high value, low volume business, really. Yeah.
So, Alex, it's also quite interesting to see how your company reflects the model of the clients that you're going after. And it's quite funny because I feel like mine does the same, and a lot of professional services support companies, if we can call ourselves that, or consultants. I find do have that model where they actually reflect what their clients do, and we've always got
Yes.
to practice what we preach quite a lot as well. So
Yeah.
the
True. Yeah.
services that Hutchinson and Co offer, who is it right for? Who you mentioned that it is not for everybody. It's not a high volume business. It's quite focused.
Yeah.
Who are the
Yeah.
clients that you really like to work with and you find get the most from your services?
Yeah, and in the UK where we operate mainly at the moment, we have dealt with some international clients, but that tends to look like firms that are over 1 million in revenue, so £1 million in revenue, but under 150 headcount. That's our sweet spot, really. So there's the 80-20 rule, but I would say 95% of our work is in that bracket. Sometimes we'll work on specialist projects for larger firms where they have in-house IT directors and resource and infrastructure teams, but they want to assign someone to a specialist project. But we don't go looking for that work really. It's just we get work that comes our way and we'll see if it's a right fit. But what I really like doing is working with those owner managed firms where I'm working directly with an equity partner or the managing partner. We're really understanding and analysing what they need from technology. So we're not just running off to find things. We're saying, hang on a minute, let's just look at what the problems are. What have you tried before? What was that desired future state? How have you tried to get there? What are the real, because it's all about the business. It's all about what does that firm need? What does the firm need? What do the clients need from that firm? And what do their people need from that firm to keep them there? So you've got to get down to what are the business fundamentals of what you're trying to achieve, because it takes time and that costs money and you need to bring in additional resource. And we don't want to do a project if it's not going to add value. So we're checking that all the time. So I love dealing with the smaller firms.
Why do you find that those size of firms really need your services?
Because I find they sit in two camps. So some of them are small firms that are kind of more of a lifestyle business, if I can say that, where they think, you've got a managing partner, they're experiencing what they do, they've got good contacts, they know where the work comes from, they've got a great little business, really, and they're very passionate about it and they do it very well. Now, to bring in a consultancy and cost for that's not really on their radar. They just want to keep things going. Whereas there's other firms that they don't have internal IT resource. They don't need it. They don't want an IT director to manage. They're not at the scale and size that warrants it. But they don't want to make the missteps that they've seen either at the places they worked before or that they've done themselves. They want to do it once and do it right. And that's where we resonate with them, you see. So they tend to be leaders of a practice that they're very confident in their work type or types. They've got partners leading these areas. They know where the work comes from. Their focus is around how do we attract and retain these clients, and then the people that we need. That is a big task in itself. They need someone else that understands the sector, that can communicate with them at the same level, and then take that away and go and make the tech thing work and do all the back and forth translation with asking their people their questions and talking to the vendors and cutting through the smoke and mirrors to get to the bottom of what matches up with what they need. They don't want to get involved in it. They don't enjoy it, and they don't like not being able to navigate it. These are individuals that, when you put them in a room to deal with a certain area, they've got control. They don't like this other side, and I'm there to take care of that for them. So that's why it works.
At what point do they come to that realization that they need some IT help or they need some systems help?
So there's a couple of things. There might be, I think the £1 million revenue helps, because when you're under that size, you're not a business as such, in inverted commas. You're a growing practice, but there's not necessarily the ROI there to kind of bring people in to fix things. So it's just kind of like, yeah, there might be problems there, but let's just get on with it and keep doing what we're doing. And it's not a big enough problem. So you've got day-to-day bumps in the road that are dealt with by your vendor support or IT support company that you have. They'll always have these people there, but something comes up, either a big enough challenge or a big enough opportunity that they want to address. So it might be that there's a major systems change. We need a document management system. We don't have one. We need to change this old case management system that we have. We want to improve the onboarding, or, we're trying to attract the right people. They want to know about AI and emerging tech. We can't keep ignoring it. We need a narrative and a plan and to start that journey. So something comes up that's big enough that warrants them to need it. And then the ones we work with are the ones that say, that's fine, but we want someone that can work with us to make that happen. We don't want to do this ourselves. We don't want to waste the time. We don't want to get it wrong. We want to do it right.
Do you find it comes from client demand, or as in demand from the firm's clients? Perhaps a tender comes through where there's a box where you say the data privacy needs to be a certain level, or the IT security needs to be at a certain level, or is it more self-realization?
I think the AI and emerging tech side is more of this, it's client and market driven. So there are pressures there, because emerging tech is a threat. And I think everybody knows that. It's a threat if you stand still, basically. So you need a narrative. So what firm do your existing clients want to be dealing with between now and 2030? It won't be the same type of firm. If another firm comes up in your marketplace that can do things that the client perceives to be financially ineffective, we've got 6K for discovery work, where there's a new firm there that's going to do it for a 4K, 5K fixed fee because they're using AI. They're the things that will shift. So they're the threats. And then the other thing is your people want that as well. If you're putting people on training contracts, you don't want to go through the energy or bringing people in. They'll want the tech that they're used to dealing with. So if you recruit people from top firms, you need to have a certain level of tech to be able to attract them these days. That's the reality. And also, if you've got the younger generation training contracts, you want to be able to keep them when you've been through that process. You don't want them just going to get a job at another firm. And then the legacy stuff, the existing improvements tends to be internally driven. So that might be, we've been putting up with this onboarding process, but it's now our people are getting a bit annoyed by it. The fee earners don't want to be doing this much work. They want the file open. They want to be working on it. So there's those type of things come internally. And then the other thing is there's been a lot of change with the case and practice management systems, where you've got legacy technology, which is basically like a piece of software installed on a server, and the new future is cloud. So this thing just gets further and further away, and eventually everything needs to go to the cloud. So there's those two things happening really in parallel, I'd say. You don't want to do both at once. You might need to do one before the other, or you need to get your house in order before you start.
Understood. And my next question was going to be around the misconceptions that firms have around legal tech. Maybe what you've just said feeds into that a bit. What are the biggest misconceptions that firms tend to have about legal tech and tech solutions?
If it's about updating legacy technology, I don't know if it's a misconception as such, but one of the challenges is they don't know what they don't know. So we've been using these systems. We're not engaged in the legal tech market. We're busy engaged in our practice area and what our clients need and the work that's taking place there in the market. So that is a challenge. And that's the biggest risk point, really, because what firms tend to do is they'll say, right, we don't know what we don't know. So we're going to go and look at demonstrations from the top vendors and engage in beauty parades. And that can start a really negative cycle because you're not focused on what you need. You're focused on what they can provide. And I won't go down a rabbit hole with that, but that's a really big problem. That's a really big risk. So the misconception with AI and emerging tech is interesting because what I see there is the firms I'm dealing with, certainly, they're not here to play around with it. So it's a bit like two camps as well. You get the lifestyle firm where they're playing around with a few different bits, and they'll find what they need, and it'll help them move along, and that'll be good. That's all they need. Whereas the firms we're engaging with, there aren't misconceptions actually in a way because they know that there's a lot of noise, they know that there's a lot of tech available, but because it's so amplified, it's impossible to navigate. Do you see what I mean? So it kind of makes that, it clears that out the way. What they're seeing is lots of things that are either high cost, and I think they know, deep down, they know if we just buy that, it doesn't mean that people are going to use it, and it doesn't even mean it's right for what we need. Firms need that guidance. You need that consultative approach to say, what's our strategy? What does our firm want to be? What do our clients want us to be? And what do our people want us to be? And then how do we achieve that? And you need to go through an exercise that's people and change led when it comes to AI and emerging tech, because the reality is 99.999% of whatever a firm is going to need is available, and if not, can be built like that. So it's about identifying the right places, the right use cases. Where is the value? Where's the low hanging fruit? So it might be around business development. It might be around onboarding. It might be around admin and factual analysis. It doesn't always mean legal casework. That arguably would be very later in the process because you need to maintain quality and control of what you're doing. So it's about having that right approach. So the firms we engage with come to us and say, we want someone to help us on that journey. I don't know about the misconceptions would be a hard one to say with legal tech because I think it's pretty apparent that it's a bit of an arms race out there and everybody's just trying to build and create all these things. And, well, you just stood there looking at it, aren't you? You think, well, where do we start? And we have a plan and a methodology to help them do that, you see. I think that's the difference.
I think you're right because I've spoken to people over the last couple of months. Vendors who create these lovely AI platforms, and anything can be done with them, but it's almost been done in reverse because it's almost like not really solving the need of the firm. Is kind of just saying, well, we have something. What's your problem? We can try and help you solve it, but without actually thinking first, what is the problem?
Yeah, and it's difficult because they'll build a product that can serve the legal sector, and they'll factor in all the right things about data privacy and encryption and everything like that, and they'll look at a particular use case. But the reality is that the firm still needs to go through that journey until they meet that tech. You need to match the two things together. So vendors will face that, but that'll be their biggest problem. And it may be that part of our strategy needs to be going to the vendors that want to engage somebody and help the firm bring them towards the tech. Because otherwise, you've got all this tech ready to go, and you've got firms that are stood there. It's like looking up at the sky. There's all these stars everywhere, but which one do we pick? You can't just pick one. You need a plan and you need to go through a process. And what I would also say is that in all of the firms that we have worked with, it doesn't matter whether you get two firms in the same practice area. They're led by different people. The culture and approach is slightly different. The way they want their people to work is based on those individuals and how they've grown that practice. And it needs to follow that order. You can't do it the other way around. You can't just bring the tech and stick it to people when it comes to AI and emerging tech without some of the other side coming forward. And that's where we help. So firms are then in control. It makes it easier in a way, in my mind, because the tech's there. Don't worry about that. Worry about what you need, how it needs to work, why, what do your people want, where are the use cases going to be, where are the opportunities, the improvements, and then find tech to meet your specific needs. That's the way to do it because the tech is there.
So that goes some way to answering a little bit of my next question is, what does good look like in IT strategy, especially in legal?
So in a simplified way, I would always say that in terms of IT strategy, it's about understanding what does your business need and how does it need to work? What do you want, really? So what does the business need? Business outcomes, again, firm, clients, people, what do they need? What does that need to look like? How would it work? And why is that important? What are the bottlenecks and challenges and frustrations we face at the moment? Why are they? So it works this way at the minute. We really want it to do this. Don't worry about whether it's possible or not. Just get that down and then identify why that's important. And then that is your guiding format. It doesn't matter what the tech is. It needs to meet the needs of your firm because you know what you need. You know what your firms need, sorry, your clients, and you know how you want it to work and why. You need to be able to maintain that flow type state when you're managing a case, not be distracted and disrupted by the technology you're using. So, in simple terms, don't be looking at the tech. Don't be looking up here for the tech. Look at what you need internally is the best place to start every time.
So I've looked a lot at what good looks like. Can you share a horror story or two that you've come across where perhaps the system's gone wrong or procurement process has gone wrong?
Yeah, and it always comes down to similar things. It's where firms, they rush or they come under pressure because they've missed out those earlier steps. They've not understood a headline strategy. They've not acquired knowledge. They've not confirmed their requirements with their people and then gone to select technology. So that's the first 4 phases of our 6-phase methodology. And then you're into, configuration, setup, implementation, and training for standard selection. So AI and emerging tech's a bit different, but standard selection, that's what you do. But all the time, firms will say, we don't know what we don't know. We'll go to market, we'll do all the beauty parades, and then you end up comparing what solutions have and how it works. But none of that is actually focused on what you need, so you're out of control. And you end up either getting to a stage where it becomes there's so much time invested that you just think, look, we can't decide here. We don't know. You put the brakes on it. That's actually the right choice. Worst case is when they proceed anyway. And yeah, we normally get involved to do kind of project rescues, we'll call it in that way, where
Have you got an
we pick
example
this
of a project
technology.
rescue that you've done?
Well, it's kind of like we realised at implementation stage that this software doesn't do what we need because they've missed all those steps. So we're then in a position where we're then going back to work out what they need and try and literally knit that software to do the most of what they need whilst they're in contract. We've had situations where where a client of ours actually has helped another firm get out of that contract or readjust it. And then other times we've been involved where they've said, we need to select this software or we want to select this software for our intranet. There was one that was a big document management system for the wrong reasons. It's because they worked with that vendor or another firm they've heard of has done that. It's like, well, this is why it's not the right approach to do it that way. Trying to help them de-risk it. But if they don't and they want to do it, you need to basically understand all those requirements and then reverse engineer the tech to meet those needs. It just doesn't do what they need, but they've signed up to the contract. It happens all the time where the live implementation is totally different to what they've seen on a demo. It's not in a position that they need because they've not been in control. They've just let a vendor install software and then they're expecting their people to use it in a way that works for them. It fails every time.
So how do you ensure then that tech decisions align with firm-wide strategy, not just IT wish lists?
Well, that's how you need to run it, is through this way. So again, I'll keep the simpler model is for a selection. It's about driving it from these internal questions and answers first. We don't even go to vendors at all until we've agreed a headline strategy and a plan. This is what we're doing. This is what success looks like. This is what it's only going to be in this area that we're dealing with. These are the problems that we've got at the moment as a business that we need to fix. This is why. This is what it needs to look like in the future. And then you go and acquire knowledge from the people is the second phase. What are they doing at the moment? What's their experience on the ground? What are the key components of where they use this system? And then you can go through and gather the detail, the requirements of the different fields that they need, the process that it follows, where there's the clunks in the road, the way that they want it to look like and work. And that enables you to create a requirements document. So when you've got a requirements document then that says, this is how we as a firm need that system to work. So the people look at it and go, yes, that is what I need. If you get me that system, that's going to do what we need. We then go to market. We don't do an RFP, which is a request, for pricing, and think we don't send it out because it's open to vendor interpretation. They can say, yes, tick, we have Outlook integration to the DMS. Great. That's not enough. How does it work? Does it include all the components that the fee earners need. So what we do is we do online research then to look at, we know all the components that are needed for a new case and practice management system. We've got a list of all the vendors that are in that marketplace because we're in that space all the time. So we're able to go online and do research to go, right, there's 15 vendors there, but we know there's only 5 that have got all the things that we need. And then we'll arrange interviews with them. It's about going through that requirements document. So most of them know now when they receive contact from us, it's not an RFP. We're looking to build a relationship with the right vendor for this client. So we go through and say, right, show us how this works. You said, yes, it does it, but show me. And then we're literally going through and grading it all until we get to like the final 2 systems. And then we bring the client in and go, we've got this short list. These 2 appear to do exactly what you need. And then make sure that they engage with that process and go, oh, we really like that one. That's got other things. And the final thing I'd say is you never miss innovation that way, because once you've identified these shortlist of vendors, that's when the relationship builds. If you don't do those steps in that order, the whole thing just fails because you're not building up the knowledge that you need to control that conversation and select the right tech. You can't do it unless you understand what you need.
So you're, as you've just alluded to, you're very vendor agnostic. It's all about the right solution for your client. What do you make of the crowded legal tech market at the moment? There's so much going on, whether it's AI or even the traditional CRM systems or the ERPs and everything. What do you make of the market at the moment?
I think the reality is that the competition's got to be healthy for the legal sector. It has to be. So we've got old legacy systems, as I said, that are being replaced by these new cloud-based technologies. So it's good that there's more choice available. The reality is that you just need to navigate it the right way. It's not a bad thing that there's so much choice, because these organizations are working very hard. They're investing a lot of money into building these products to try and take market share in legal. So to me, it's a positive thing. There is more option, there is more choice, there's more technology, there's more people to partner with to help you with the business challenges that you face. It has to be a good thing. There's still risks, especially with AI and emerging tech. You need to make sure that, is that business really a proper tech business, or are they just kind of, you can build something very quickly with AI. There's other risks now within that side that you haven't had with more traditional vendors. There's other risks with, what are they going to do when they scale it and sell it? We're then stuck in that tech. How's that? So there's other considerations then. So that they become new types of challenges or considerations, really. But the marketplace being active with lots of products being built for law firms, I think is a good thing. Firms aren't normally bothered about tech in a way. They want it to do what they need it to do. And as soon as it does, it just becomes part of their ecosystem and they're back to focusing on what they want to be dealing with. That's the way it should work. They don't want to be spending too much time selecting and changing tech. They want to be keeping it for like 7 years. You don't want this. They're a great client to have.
So where do you think the gaps and the opportunities are then at the moment?
For law firms.
Yeah, as in what systems, what are your clients looking for? What are your law firm clients looking for at the moment to improve their business?
So I think it falls into a few of those camps. You've got the onboarding file opening processes, ID, AML. So it's all this and you've got the business development aspect as well. So you've got the business development work that then comes into converting it into a client. How do we do that effectively in a manner that looks good for the client and is effective for our fee earners and meets all the regulatory requirements so we can get to opening a file and time recording? That's what they want to do. And then how can we then manage that case just with the tools we need? I don't want all this other stuff. I just want the tools that we need to be able to deliver effective progress for the client. So we can time record at good rates, strong rates, with limited write-off and questions about what we're doing, because we're progressing that case within that value that we always say that internally we are paid for safe progress. That's what all clients want of law firms. They'll give you the money, they'll pay the fees as long as you've moved the needle safely in the right direction for them. And then the rest of it is just about how can we easily manage the data? We need to make sure that we're retaining it. We've got client closure, and it's just in a place where the data retention is in a place that we need it to be. That's it's like your infrastructure these days. It's no longer in boxes. You need these cloud technologies to manage the life cycle of a case. Do you need document management as well? If you do, how do you implement that? So they're the main changes that firms are doing. And then the other stuff is firms have a percentage of that investment of time around technology that they want to be putting towards AI and emerging tech. And that depends on the type of business they've got as well, whether it's kind of a co-pilot and infrastructure type journey that you start layering up, or whether you've got a high volume business and we need to understand what are the steps and processes and how do we leverage automation and AI to improve what we're doing
So it's interesting
faster.
that those first, I guess the first answers you gave them were actually more about case management and, the actual sort of fee earning side rather than the business side, which kind of conflicts slightly with what we talked about earlier in the podcast, where it was a bit more, I guess you're saying that some of the solutions are a bit more business focused. So do you think there is a gap there? Do you think firms are focusing on the wrong thing?
No, sorry. What it is that the decisions and the focus that the firm need to take is where do we need to make improvements within our business, and very often they are based on where are the fee earners engaging with technology. But what I mean by that, it's not about what products are available, what bells, whistles, bolt-ons are in the market. That doesn't matter. The business strategy needs to be on what does our firm and our people and our clients need, and then we'll go and find the tech that helps those things. And it's often it's within the life cycle of a case. That's the first area that you need to look, because that's where we spend our day all day. That's where our clients pay us to be, and where we want to make improvements by removing the inefficiencies we currently face and the problems we've currently got. So that's why it sits there. So it's still business focused. It's just that the reality is as a professional practice, that business is fee earning activity. That's where it is.
Understood.
And then the other side is around this kind of innovation, if we call it that, for innovation improvement, automation, AI, those type of things. They are more of a opportunity versus an infrastructure improvement, if that makes sense, the life cycle of a case.
Yeah, I guess that's very interesting to hear. Interesting to hear your perspective on that, and I completely understand. Where I come from on the business development and marketing strategy is really focusing on that latter bit of trying to get the firm to move forward and to grow and to not stay stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite interesting, having those different perspectives from a marketing and business development perspective and a business perspective versus what you're actually seeing from the technology side, which is the product that actually needs the fixing first before you can look at how to then grow the firm and move forward.
I would say the same, Chris, as well, regarding business development and marketing. So when we look at our clients, we have different profiles. So we are doing an AI project right now for a high volume practice that specializes in certain types of litigation. Okay, I'll just say it quite generically. So there's 4 case types that we're looking at. That business development is part of this, because for one of them, it's the business is generated through account managers that are engaging with clients already, that converts a certain type of litigation. Okay, and then the other 3, it's all based through marketing activities that are articles that need to be created, business development or marketing activities, if we call it that, that then generate opportunities that go into a pipeline. So we're dealing with an AI project for this firm, because we're understanding the whole life cycle of the process and where AI and automation can make improvements in marketing and BD, and also throughout the life cycle of the case that's inside the case and practice management system, to do with integrations they need with land registry and all these other things that they don't have at the minute. So, but the other side is you also have specialist practices. Let's say you're an employment firm, or a corporate and commercial firm, or a specialist litigation, commercial litigation firm. Their work comes through relationships, doesn't it? So it tends to be, so their technology that's needed for that will be different, because it's not about volume. It's about making sure that we have a record of who are the contact types that we need, where are they, who's speaking to them, how frequently do we need to be doing that, and how do we capture that and monitor it, and then because that will then have an impact on the amount of cases and work that we generate. So I still think it applies in the same way, interestingly, but it depends on the volume. And the activity type. So sometimes we'll deal with firms where the BD side is part of it, actually, in terms of what they need from tech, but it's very limited. Whereas this higher volume engine, it has a marketing machine that generates the work at high volume, so the cases need to be effective. But that's the whole thing. It's about, it doesn't matter what's available, because we need to know what you need and where it needs to be done. Then we can work out how to go and get it. So I think the same applies across that spectrum, really, irrespective of where it starts in the case or where it sits in the case.
Interesting. So we've talked a bit, you alluded to AI quite a lot. AI is a big buzzword at the moment. And
Yeah, oh yeah.
yeah, are you finding again that firms are just being sold by the buzz and purchasing those products before they understand what their actual needs are, and you're then coming in to help them sort of fix that?
The ones that we're dealing with, not so much. That I think it's so there's so much noise that firms are just. I think it's just washing over them now. Even I receive like the legal tech newsletters, and the amount of reference to AI in the title pages, it's off-putting in a way. You just think, oh, yeah, great, another AI newsletter. We keep an eye on products and what's out there, but very, very light touch, so we can literally say, if you've got a client that's looking at document automation, we can literally pick up the right tech that needs to be considered. But I would be amazed if it's not just just washing over them all the time. Because it goes back to the same thing. What do we do about this? I'm hearing about all these flipping products, but how does that help me? How do I make a start? I'm hoping that's where the future lies. I think it's in that advisory piece, because these two are harder to stick together. You need to follow a different approach with AI and emerging tech that is more people led. And again, we've done different types of ones. I've talked to you about how we've worked with a firm where they're high volume. We picked 4 case types specifically. We've gone through the life cycle of that case. We looked for where's the problems and opportunities. That drives your technology projects. That is your strategy. And then there's other firms that we've dealt with that are specialist firms where they'd want to start a narrative. So we put it in as like a new infrastructure. We put Copilot in place. So we've got a tool that is AI that they can use within the existing technology they engage with day to day, Outlook, Word. And we've got guidance and policy that we've drafted that's been deployed to 3 firms now that's used. We know about all the data privacy and protection. Everything that's done resides in your Microsoft tenant, so it's all locked and secure. You don't have to worry about data going out everywhere. We can build you a little safe zone for AI agents to talk to and on your own data and for it to come back. But more importantly, it enables you to start that journey. So we've done kind of like a pilot group with a specific practice area where we've got certain people in. We give them overview training on what Copilot is, how it needs to work, how they should use it in line with the policy, go through some standard use cases, and then you start to get people engaging with it from the pilot group, not all the firm, the pilot group. And even something as simple as on a Thursday, this pilot group have got an hour in the diary, let's say, we're saying now, don't try and find a way to use Copilot. Look back at what you've done that week. And in that week, where is something that was laborious or you'd like to have improvement or you think AI could help? And then you go back and redo it and test it. How does it compare? And it starts this process. It starts a process where they can then start understanding what they need from AI and emerging tech, how it needs to work. And they find loads of quick wins in areas that they weren't even aware that it would be a win. And some of them are so appearingly low value, but the value that they get from AI helping them, it's just so high. But you need to be using it safely. That's a great way to do it. And what happens then is you find areas that your people are creating knowledge around. I thought it'd be great to use it here, but it's hitting these blockers. It's not built to do this. Great, but that is an area that AI could help this firm. So then you start to build, you're building your knowledge around what you need as a byproduct of it. But most importantly, what it gives that firm is a narrative and a stance. We are using AI. I can talk to my introducers about how we're safely doing this. I can talk to clients about how we're safely doing this. They don't have to worry that we're not going to be making progress. We are, but we need to be in control and it needs to be able to remain quality in terms of the output of what we're doing. And this is how we're approaching it. And it takes the pressure off because you can talk to people about it. And you can create that narrative that, so there is a new firm that can do all X, Y, and Z. Well, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go to my current firm and say, this is something other firms are offering. How are you going to do with that? They're not just going to jump because they know that you're engaging with AI and technology safely. They want you to be able to help them.
So are we talking like off-the-shelf products here that then need customization, or are we talking customized products, I guess?
Yeah, and there is So Copilot is obviously an out-of-the-box product where you're finding different use cases. So it can do lots of things, but what are the things that we are going to do with it that will benefit us? So that's one way to put in this infrastructure for Copilot, because everybody can start to use it safely now. And then when it comes to specialist areas where you really need it, it might be like we need, you know, discovery work, we need chronology done, we need document drafting. Where there's specific things, there are a lot of opportunities because there's products already available. So you can do the same thing that we talked about in selection. You need to really understand what you need from it. You need to pilot it, test it, and then you might drop it and try another one with AI. It's not a case of just selecting something. You need to be using it for a pilot. And then you'll learn from that basically. So it needs configuration, but there's loads of products available. But in some instances, you can build things, but it won't be deep legal work. It'll be something to do with a chatbot that you'd build or a voice AI agent. So instead of ring, if you're dealing with private client and at 8 p.m. you haven't got anybody on the phone, somebody could still ring a number and speak to an AI agent that can give them information, ask questions, provide answers, and write something up and arrange a meeting for you with the right person. You can still develop things like that, but in terms of where the legal work's taking place, really you want a product that's been built specifically to do this thing, but we need to know what we want from it and how we need it to work, and then we'll make sure it's configured and set up to do what we need. We're not having a tech vendor tell us how our cases are run. We need to still do things this way.
So you
So
find that firms are doing that they're buying the off-the-shelf products and then finding, not really sure how to use these, or they're not talking to each other. Are they then customizing those and getting them to talk to each other? And are you helping with that?
yeah, that's what you need to do.
Right.
That's what you need to do. Yeah, you have to do it that way. But it's about making sure that you understand, again, same old thing. You need to understand exactly what you need and how it needs to work and why before you go to a selection. And then you can pick what appears to be the best with AI and emerging tech. But then you need to pilot it and you need to do a test run with it. And you need to work out, how are we going to pilot it? Who's going to do it? What are the metrics that we're going to measure it against? How are we going to document these outputs? So there's more that it needs to sit in that selection phase for longer, because before you can actually then go, right, now we're going to start rolling this out. So that's why you need a small test group. Whereas when you're doing case management change, it's a bit different. You're selecting something for them to use. Here, you're selecting AI to work with your people. It's different.
Now, you've obviously dealt a lot with the UK-based firms. Are you
Yeah.
seeing sort of similar solutions from into and out of other countries as well? Or is it, are the markets quite different, or is it quite globalized?
So for us, the tech market is globalized, really. So there's definitely no restrictions in terms of the tech you can use and where the founders are, or as long as you've got the right type of privacy protection, encryption to meet UK regulation or US regulation. They're the things that you need to look at. But in terms of the market, like we said before, this marketplace now with technology is bigger. So there's tech vendors in Australia that are just trying to bring that to the UK market and vice versa. Same with the US. Clio's a massive US company. They're huge in the UK as well. So there's no boundaries when it comes to the technology vendor. And I think from a project perspective for us, that makes us think a bit differently now. You think, well, we don't need to just deal with UK clients. I think the difference is that although I would still want to lead that, be the partner responsible and accountable for progress, for us, it would be about, right, well, when we've got this project team of senior associate, requirements coordinator and associate, do we actually recruit a team that is, on US soil or in Dubai? Do you see what I mean? I think that's where the difference lies. So we can get delivery done locally with local people, dialects. It's just different. It's easier to engage with and understand and not misunderstand. And there's nothing lost in translation. You need native speaking local individuals on the ground to work with that firm. That's where I think the balance is. But in terms of the tech vendors and somebody leading that project, I don't think that needs to be local.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing on the BD marketing side, to be honest. So obviously, I focus a lot on the Middle East. I
Yeah.
see there's a real consistent. The challenges are the same globally, basically everywhere, at least in the English-speaking world.
Yes. Yeah.
Whether
Yeah.
you're dealing with a firm in the Middle East, UAE, UK, Europe, US, Canada, Australia,
Yeah.
everyone's really got the same kind of issues and same kind of challenges, albeit related to their local market, where the opportunities may be slightly different. But all of them have trouble identifying their ideal client. All of them have trouble focusing on their business plans and actually moving forward and growing their business. All of them have trouble with the struggles with their fee earners needing to be more efficient. So I think globally there are so many opportunities.
And wouldn't that be the same from your side, though? If you're dealing with, from a business development perspective, if you're trying to put together a strategy for a firm, again, in terms of how we do it or what tech is available to support it or how we deliver it, it's irrelevant until we understand what we're trying to achieve and how it needs to work and why. So again, it's that business. You need to be business first, don't you? Then you can implement the plan. I think that what we see a lot of is firms are very busy doing what they do day to day, and you can't have outside eyes and lead a strategic project if you're also up against fee earning. You can't do it. So the ones that move are the ones that can invest in bringing the experts in to help them. I don't want to be doing it, but I need to move forward. How can we do that? Because I don't want to still be talking about this in 12 months. We need to progress. And they're the good firms to work with. So I think it's kind of works its way out itself, really.
Fantastic. It sounds like you're having quite a lot of success with this as well, and helping the firms to have that success themselves.
Yeah, but we're very deep in the projects when we're in it. Do you know what I mean? We take the client trust and relationship seriously, not seriously as in, to make it a boring engagement. I just mean it's treated with respect, and we're very conscious of how many clients we've got on at any one time. We then we try and have one new client a month, because it means then we've got a life cycle of other ones dropping out when we've finished the project. So we're not there forever. We're there to deliver a project and then drop out. The reality is that clients tend to keep us and want us to do other things, but that's positive because it must show that we're doing good work and they perceive value from it. Otherwise they wouldn't do that, would they? So
you certainly are. So I'm very grateful for you joining us today, Alex. It's been really insightful. So what I've learned, I think, mainly is think about strategy, think about what firms actually need before procuring any tech, and think about your business needs and your fee earning needs as part of that in order to then make your strategy and grow your firm.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, you're preaching to the converted.
I appreciate you asking me along too.
You're most welcome.
It's just good to talk through it in like this open forum. I really like just being able to do that and be asked questions and let things flow. I think it's a great format. So I appreciate you asking me to come along.
Anytime. Yeah, you're welcome anytime, Alex. So thank you very much for your valuable insights, and I'm sure a lot of firms are listening and are going to take those to heart. So for all our listeners and our viewers on YouTube, that's it for this episode of Muhami Matters. Again, a massive thanks to Alex Hutchinson for joining us and sharing such clear-eyed, practical insights on where tech's going in legal, and also how firms need to keep up. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and share it with your network. For more insights and support, visit muhami.ae or connect with me at CJA Consulting. I'm Chris Adams. Until next time, stay informed, stay empowered, and set your tech strategy. Thank you for joining us on Muhami Matters. If you found today's episode valuable, subscribe and connect with me to stay updated. Join me again soon as we continue to bring you credible insights, practical strategies, and trusted advice to empower your professional journey. I'm Chris Adams. Until next time, stay informed and stay empowered.